great. Have a sip of coffee and wait for others to join.
Yeah. So I can switch off the TV now. Yeah, so I'm working on a prototype for the low code UI, and maybe in a week or in 2 weeks I can show off something about it. And yeah, I have some work done in the past around low code platforms which are more visual, because one of my focuses is make everything accessible to everybody. So like, say if you have a lot of data science stuff, or I'm an engineer, for example, you have a lot of engineering stuff, you have people who are not able to understand it. And I think they also should have a chance to work with those tools. And yet where we are working with AI a lot, and it's a real game changer, and it's really a disadvantage if you're not able to work with this, or at least are not able to maybe configure it right or wrong, then yeah, that's as I said, a disadvantage, and I want to overcome this with a tool which is probably more feasible for a wider range of people. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I started working on things like that when I discovered that kids are working with those low-code platforms and they program their Lego stuff, you know. And I was in a robotics society for school kids, and they are using those low-code platforms all the time, because the other option would code in C, and this is a little bit too difficult to understand for people or for kids when they are maybe 10 or 12. Yeah. Hi.
Absolutely. Hi, Ethan. Hi, Jim. Hi, Scott. Just welcome. We're gonna wait just a little bit and then get going. Yeah, just gonna say that this idea of a UI tool is wonderful, because I cannot tell you how many times I run into a small indentation issue with YAML or a typo, and I don't know what's going on, what's not working. It's just some people just love editing YAML because they have some tool that does it all and corrects for them. And I've also seen something that was written in I believe in one of those query languages that came from Meta, and it made that made editing YAML a little bit better. But if you have a tool, doesn't matter what underlying technology is, I think it'll be wonderful. It'll help people get more comfortable with using Ludwig because your onboarding is critical.
Yeah, of course it is. It is.
All right. Well, welcome everybody, and we'll probably get some other folks who will join. Maybe some are having difficulties with the new Zoom link. Thank you for for seeing that in time. But the reason for this new Zoom link was that I was constantly fighting the situation where I would join and would say, waiting for host. Well, I am the host. He didn't know. So they did finally some things. And so, especially because Pierre couldn't be here today, it's all on me to get the meeting started. So I got help. And so here we are. As a fringe benefit, in quotes, I have no idea what this Predibase note taker is and why it joined. Just here we are. We're just sitting here talking, and it just showed up. I don't know for what reason, but let's hope it's not going to cause us any harm. With that said, do you see the agenda slide?
I see like the speaker version of that, not a single slide.
Like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are together. Thanks for joining. And so we have some new folks here, but I just wanted to say that the vision of these monthly syncs has always been like co-workers having a friendly conversation, giving each other feedback, helping them to get their own project in as good of a state as can be. While largely informal, we still started having an agenda to guide us along so that we use our time together, our precious time together efficiently. And we also started recording these meetings for those who couldn't come here and for ourselves to review and revisit some of the nuggets of discussion that we'd want to hear again, see again. And so with that, we just ask that for this 1 hour together, we turn on the camera so we can see each other, and we suspend notifications for a while so that we can be fully engaged in our conversation. And so for today,
Hey, Alex. Hey,
yes,
Alex. I guess you had pointed out Notaker. So I guess I just Googled it. And it says Zoom Notaker Bot is an AI assistant that joins a meeting to record calls. It can transcribe, give highlights of the call, and deliver a summary. I don't know
so
if that's the same thing or not.
it sounds relevant because before you joined, we clicked the record button and it
Uh-huh.
said it is being recorded. Is that okay? So we said yes, and then that thing joined. So let's not disturb it. Let it do its own recording work and transcribing. There are different opinions on transcriptions. Some people don't like them because they're not very good. For me, actually, I like them because sometimes I increase the speed and read faster than listen, or I use some content to inspire a blog post. So to me, I actually like having it. So, so if people object, let me know. But for now, let it run. First time, let's see how it does. Maybe it'll do a good job. And so our agenda for today is, well, we have new folks here, which is always exciting, and some updates from us, and my favorite part, which is shop talk. And today we have 2 presentations. So if there's anything that you would like to add to the agenda, great. If we have time today, wonderful. If not, it will be for next time. But always love getting your suggestions. One thing to just repeat, because some people joined a little later, and that is Piero could not make it today. We have an offsite coming up all next week, and I think some people started preparing it for it ahead of schedule. Some people have just various logistics they have to do for the offsite. So Piero is not here, but for those who do not know, Piero is the reason we're all here. Piero is the creator and the visionary behind Ludwig that is designed to make the life of machine learning practitioners and data scientists much better. And I think that we're all, myself included, are here because of Piero, and I will relay the recording transcripts to him so that he can know what we talked about and rejoin next time. So now, one of my favorite parts, people who have been here before and the new people. So I'll just start with myself. I joined Predibase in November and to work on Ludwig because I joined the Ludwig thing just like this one. I saw Jim, Saad, Saikat, some other people, and I just fell in love with Ludwig. I made a contribution. I just wanted more and more and more of this. Now I get to do this for a job. So this is just really special for me. And do we have any other internal folks here who could quickly introduce themselves? Oh yeah. So one click down, we have Jeff Kinnison and Tim. Guys, could you please introduce yourselves?
Hi, yeah, I'm Jeff Kinson. I'm with the machine learning experience team at Predibase, working alongside Alex and Tim.
Yep. Like Jeff said, I'm Tim. I'm also on the ML experiences team, so I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. And now, how about we go Jim, Ethan, and Saikat, and then Carlos and Martin.
Hi, I'm Jim Thompson. I guess I started contributing to Ludwig about a few years ago, helped with like the TensorFlow 1 to TensorFlow 2 port, then TensorFlow 2 to PyTorch stuff, and did the initial implementation of the integrating the Torch Vision models. For the last year or so, the day job's gotten a little bit demanding, so I've just been lurking around just to make sure I can keep up with all the cool stuff that's happening.
Hi guys, I'm Ethan. I've been contributing to Ludwig for the past 6 months or so now. I've mostly worked on the vision stuff, and now I'm recently working on the vision language models with Zakit. So that's what we're working on now.
I guess I'll go next. I know most of the folks here that work on Ludwig, but the new folks, welcome. Can I say, I started working on Ludwig at the same time as Jim, built a bunch of the underlying domain and model stuff, but now concentrating on the multi-language and text stuff with Ethan. Very nice to meet everybody.
Great. And now Carlos and then Martin Habidank. Is that how you pronounce? Is that correct?
It's okay for me.
Martin. Okay. Carlos, go ahead, please.
Hi. Well, I'm new to Ludwig. I heard of Ludwig, but I started using Ludwig when I started using Pretty-Base. And then with the change in terms in Pretty-Base, I went to like the open source of Ludwig, and I've been using Ludwig, and I just recently started playing with Ludwig and Skype Pilot. So like this is like my first time in this meeting, and I didn't know what to expect, but I'm happy to be here, and I become like a big fan of Ludwig and everything you guys are doing. So it's good to be here.
Welcome.
So it's my turn, right? Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Martin. I'm calling from Berlin, Germany. I'm also a new user. I'm a product manager for or in the automotive industry, and I stumbled upon Ludwig just a few weeks ago when a friend of mine had a task. I had a task I should just do for him, and I was like, oh my god, all the PyTorch stuff, it changed in the last few years since I used it last time, and it really annoyed me. And then I saw Ludwig, and I thought, oh, that's very easy to use. So I try it, I give it a chance. And then I found some smaller and minor bugs. I fixed them, and Alex just asked me to join. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome. Glad you're here. Glad everybody's here. So with that, let's go through some of our housekeeping stuff. And that is, we've finally completed our move from Slack to Discord. I know that everybody's here. Everybody who's here is very comfortable now on Discord. As clunky as the UI is compared to Slack, it's scalable. We have all of our groups, open source and commercial, offering Pretty-Base in the same, essentially in the same chat overview. So we can come up with suggestions across the board. So we're all here. Slack has been crossed out. No more Slack. It served us well when we had it. And the next update is something that everybody cares about, and that is new Ludwig architecture. What is this new Ludwig architecture for? Well, since the inception of Ludwig some 5 years ago, 2019, around that time, it's become mature, more than 10,500 stars on GitHub. But the world of machine learning is evolving, and some of the specific modalities like language or computer vision and multimodal are deserving their own code paths. So one generalized kind of classic machine learning code path will not work very well for all of these modalities. They're just getting more and more sophisticated. So we need to kind of decouple them and free them up for innovation in their individual modalities. So language can go this one way, and the computer vision can go another way, and they can share common utilities. So all of this work, we internally are still working on a proposal, not a done deal architecture, but a proposal that we will want to submit to all of you for comments. Given the work you're doing, you'll be the best judges of what is a good direction versus what needs adjustment. We'll take our time together to think it through and then ratify, so to speak, and then do some refactoring together. But for now, it's still ongoing with us, so we request your patience, ideas in the meantime. We have some already proposals, good proposals, some strawman proposals, but the final one is not there yet, but we will get there. So that's what's happening internally. And I wanted to remind everybody, especially the new folks, couple of things. So we have a survey for people who have some usage experience or contribution with Ludwig. Please weigh in. Your opinion really matters because it influences the roadmap, including the proposals we're talking about. Also, this meeting, before I circulate these slides, I'll update the link because we just had this change in the Zoom link. So I'll update all of this and share it. And let's see what else is happening. Well, I think those are the main kind of things that are happening. There's also going to be a few words I'll say about projects that are out there in the open to work on and some ongoing stuff with the issues. But for now, in terms of the housekeeping, that's kind of the main thing. Any questions? Can we move on? Move on to my favorite part. So we will start with a contributor spotlight. Contributors spotlight. We have two presentations today. But we will start with surprise. If you like what I'm wearing, the Ludwig swag, it is really my distinct pleasure to recognize many contributions by Ethan, including the last one, really impactful pull request that got merged that enables essentially progressive continuing fine-tuning, training of vision models by freezing layers based on your pattern that you provide. So before we go, could everybody please give Ethan well-deserved applause. And I'll just say that we actually developed, since it's a little bit background, we had a contest, and the contest winners got prizes like this. Since then, we learned a little bit about how to do it, and we established an internal policy of sort of encouragement through these kind of things that correspond to the contribution. So the moment the contributions accumulate or get to a certain level of complexity, we have a trigger that will essentially have me reach out to you, telling you, look, we would like to recognize you for your contributions, and we'd like your address. So, or an electronic form in some case. Well, in Ethan's case, I just want to point out that this is like our topmost collection of prizes. You get a shirt like this, really good hoodie, and all sorts of other good stuff, and a Yeti mug, kind of like this. Yetis are really good. Holds the temperature very well. So anyways, congratulations, Ethan. We're just really delighted to have you working here on Ludwig with us, inspiring others, and gets us to think about your work. And so it's just actual pleasure knowing you personally like this. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much, Alex.
And there now we come up to the part where you and Saikat get to tell us what's happening with the LLM training workflow.
Yeah. I would start by replacing LLM with LMM. So we'll start with that. We're focusing on large multimodal models. So what are we up to? So our goal is to basically introduce large multimodal models and the training workflow into Ludwig. And so what we're embarking on is, let me share this link with folks. So I shared a GitHub link with people so they can start looking at that. So we're looking at this tiny lava factory, and what it is it gives you the ability to build a factory design pattern around the training workflow for large multimodal models. So we're working off of a fork that I made of Ludwig. And initially what I did was I mimicked the LLM workflow and introduced the infrastructure code for LMM workflow. And I'm going to have Ethan kind of talk about the next steps. But before it does, one of the key things that I wanted to outline, Alex, is we are going to have to talk about that proposal, because what I'm worried about is that we get too far ahead and then the final proposal shows something that's drastically different than what we're envisioning. So it's important to keep both of these trains in sync with each other. And as we evolve through the PR, we would like you guys to get involved so that the proposal is aligned.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ethan to talk about some of the training.
Awesome. Thanks, Sakit. So we're very much still in the research phase of this implementation for sure. But currently what I've been doing on the side has been researching and comparing both the current Ludwig infrastructure with the tiny lava infrastructure that's outlined in that GitHub that Sakit sent. And so there's a couple nice things about that that GitHub, namely is that it uses transformers in the Hugging Face hub, which currently Ludwig also uses. So it makes our lives a lot easier when we're trying to do this implementation, because we both work off of that same transformers and Hugging Face library. And so another thing that's really useful is that when using PEFT or parameter efficient fine tuning or LoRa techniques, those are also available and used in the Tiny Lava GitHub. So that is another really nice thing about the code, is that it's for actually implementing those fine tuning techniques, it should be relatively straightforward. But again, this is definitely still in the research phase, so things could change, etc. And so I think the first thing to deal with, first thing to get done, is actually accepting the image and text pairs for using these models. So in a large multimodal model, it not only accepts text, but also accepts images as well. And so the model basically can take the text and image and describe, oh, what's in this image. You can prompt it with a question about the image. And so, yeah, that's it's a little bit of an update of what I've been doing. It definitely still is in the research phase, but yeah.
I want to add a couple of other things here. The challenges that we're running into that we want to get past is, how can we build this with a starter model where we don't necessarily need GPUs? So we want to work on this with a simple model and get the mechanics working, and then evolve this to using a GPU with Colab notebooks. So that's kind of our forward-thinking vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody? We would gladly welcome volunteers. This is the other reason we want to share these updates. So just ping me offline or ping Ethan offline if you want to get involved. And Alex, maybe you can share the computer vision roadmap. It has a bunch of stuff on it, so feel free to share that in Discord.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do that. And also thinking about what you said, Sekat, regarding the alignment between this PR work on the multimodal vision plus text and the architecture roadmap. I'm just thinking aloud that maybe we'll make sufficient progress over some threshold and share like a very early draft to you, just to make sure we do a sanity check together, that we're not going off in the wrong direction, and then keep working on refining it as needed. Because I think you're raising a good point. We don't want to have anybody's work just not be directly in the right channels. So yeah, and so we'll talk about this internally, and also regarding the recurring topic of GPU resources. We'll have to figure that out as well together. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Any questions? Any thoughts from Predibase, from Carlos and Martin? No? Okay, well, in that case, let's invite Martin now to talk about his first pull request into Ludwig. This is the scope of pull request 4011, issue 4009, now closed. Just a quick summary. It turns out that we've been using Jan LeCun's personal account somewhere where he had MNIST, but he probably just got rid of it. So, Martin, welcome. I'm going to move on to the next slide and have you guide us through yours.
We can just take 5 seconds and just talk about the technical implications before I talk about the whole process on how I come into the community, how I decided to just contribute. It was more or less like a very frustrating situation when you just try to go through the tutorial, and the first thing you want to do is just making the hello world of data science and download the MNIST data set, and it doesn't work. Yeah. And I think it's not that old of a problem, because all the other libraries like PyTorch, they also have a data zoo. They are also using Jan's repository, but they have a fallback, which we didn't, or which you didn't have. So it was a showstopper for the tutorials, and it has to be fixed. And I think to enable other people to use it, at least for me, it was like we should do it definitively. Yeah. And so I just, the first thing I did was to make the issue in a second, just 20 seconds later, I decided, yeah, it's such a no-brainer, I can do it myself. And then I did it, of course. Yeah.
Maybe he didn't pay his personal web hosting bill?
Sorry, I haven't understood what you said. It was a little bit too low.
So maybe he did not pay his personal web hosting bill.
Yeah, I think that it were quite expensive, right? I mean, if everybody is downloading from his, I think it's from his university, yeah, and maybe they said, sorry, Jan, you can't do it this way. Stop it, please. And it's hosted in an S3 bucket now. Maybe AWS is now paying the bill for it because of philanthropy or something, yeah. And that's essentially the new URL I used, and it's the same which is used by PyTorch. And I think a good follow-up would just be to externalize the problem and just use maybe PyTorch's data zoo and forward everything, and don't have the problem on our side. Yeah, maybe just a recommendation. Yeah, so I think we can talk about the next slide if you want. So if anybody or has any question, you can just ask. Yeah. Okay, so it's my first time I am contributing to Ludwig, and just Alex asked me if I say some words about the whole process, and yeah, maybe from a viewpoint of how much do I do things like that. I'm not doing it that often anymore, contributing to open source, because coding is not in my focus currently for the last maybe 5 years or so. And so it became more and more cost expensive for me to get into code, to get into latest stuff from all kinds of library. For example, pandas, suddenly between 0.x and 2 point something, the API changed, and it's very frustrating to keep in touch with everything when you are not coding on a daily basis. So if there's some open source thing I see, it's often for me, okay, I have to really get focused and work to it and get over all those frustrating steps of getting the newest stuff. If something changed in the tools I was using maybe 10 or 15 years ago, maybe you feel the same. Yeah. If you have used maybe, don't know, Python 2, which is ages ago, or 3.5, it's something different to 3.10 or something. Yeah, for example. Okay, you can switch to the next slide. Yeah, so why did I came to Ludwig? It was, I already mentioned it. It was just a minor task I had to do for a friend. It's my my brother-in-law. He had a business, and he just had one guy who's just reading the shipping labels of all the boxes. And he said, there must be some AI tool. Yeah, and I say, of course there is some AI tool. There is some AI tool ages ago. Yeah, and he said, yeah, can you just do something? And I said, yeah, I can do it for you. Give me a few hours, and I build you something, and I download a model and stuff like that. And that all became suddenly, as I mentioned before, it became an annoying task. Because things changed, yeah, and I had to fight all those smaller and minor problems and errors and bugs, and I was like, oh gosh, sorry, Sebastian is his name. Sebastian, sorry, I can't finish it in 2 hours. From my perspective, it should be just easy. It just should be something I am doing in 10 minutes, but I'm fighting the compiler or interpreter, and I'm fighting this and that and downloads and stuff. And I could do something, yeah, but then I was a little bit annoyed by all the imperative stuff, like writing all the code, going iteratively through the problems. And then I just Googled around and tried to find alternatives to PyTorch or TensorFlow. I don't know what I'm used in this moment. And I stumbled upon Ludwig, and I saw the declarative approach, and it was for me like the situation when I first approached like Docker containers. Yeah, it's like, oh, don't have to just shell script everything to install everything. Yeah, you just write down what you want. You want to be declarative in what you're doing, and you want to just write down what the outcome of your work is, and not the process to that outcome. And I was like, okay, I have to try it. And as said, I tried the tutorials, but I also with the Eero, I came very fast to the conclusion that it's a very amazing tool, because the learning curve is really, really gentle. Yeah, you can just start with inputs and outputs, train it, and it's a done model. Yeah, you don't have to care for all the internals. And on the other hand side, if you are long enough in AI or machine learning, there are some best practices. Why don't you code all the best practices again and again? It's like writing all the same stuff again. It's like being in preschool and writing because of writing, and it's all covered here. So you just wrote what you really need, and what is more or less like a little bit of the best practice, yeah, when you need it. And this I liked. So then, as in the slide before, maybe you can go a little bit back, because I forgot what I wanted to say. I just keep on the slides. And then I obviously find the bug, and it was one of those annoying situations I talked before. Like, why do I have to fight it? Yeah, why it's such an easy task, and now you have to fight a bug again in an open source library, which happens from time to time. It has to do with documentation, which becomes more and more relevant, because open source tools, they are developing so fast in the past years. This was accelerating. Like maybe 15 years ago, the speed of changes were not as fast as it is currently. Everybody wants to have the newer features, and if it's a tool like Ludwig, which has 10,000s of users, then they all want to have new features. But often enough, nobody cares about documentation. Yeah, you also have this agile approach, which is oftentimes misunderstood in this context, that documentation is not that important. Yeah, but it's a misunderstanding, because documentation is an entrance to the library, so it's very important if you want to scale for enough people and make your work relevant. Yeah, and I knew this, and I was like, okay, what could I do? And I just decided to fix it. Yeah, I then also found out that you have a Discord channel, and I was really amazed by it, because it makes the process of communication even faster, and it makes it direct and it makes it personal. Like, for example, I had a lot discussion with, or a lot is too much, but I had a discussion with Alex all the time about the 2 bugs I found and about what is Ludwig doing. And it was like, okay, for me, the people who are working on this are really engaged. They want to do something. They want to help the community. And it's not like what you have in other tools, for example, where they all so busy with coding that they say they don't want to get annoyed by the people who are using their tools. If you have something to ask, they sometimes are aggressive and think, yeah, why don't you just read the documentation, which is old, yeah, and not working. And that was an opposite here. And I was really amazed by this, and I thought, yeah, this is really the way to go. If you want to make a library which will scale to the data science community, the days of like it worked with pandas where there was no tool and it's essentially that tool and everybody's using it, it's over. There are so many tools, you really have to take care of the community, and this is the case here. And I was really I liked it. Yeah. Yeah, then I looked into the code and find out it was just easy. Yeah, I just had to change the URL, the domain essentially, and I looked in the code of PyTorch how they are doing it, and they have a better approach with splitting the domain and the file, so they can iterate through the domain and not the files. Yeah, stuff like that. I don't know, and also I find out that there's already a test which wasn't used by the test a bench because it didn't have the test underscore file path and it didn't have the test class and stuff like that. And then I said, yeah, just activating it by renaming the file. And also it used, I think it used wget or something. I don't know, I don't know. I just switched to request and I switched from get to head. So I don't download the whole data, but just checking if the data is there. Yeah, this was all the task essentially. Yeah, now you can slide the next slide if you want to. Yeah, then I had to, obviously I had to download the code. I obviously had to make a pull request. And often enough, you have a lot of rules how to do it. Yeah, and then you have a lot of discussion about how the code should look. And because you have people who are really behind it, that the code is perfect, especially in Python, because you have those very strict rules on how everything should break down and stuff like that. And luckily enough, that was not a big hurdle. Yeah, the pull request was a formula, just fill it out, cool. And then you use Black, of course. I think every good tool should use Black. And then I just had to write down what I changed. It just cost 5 minutes, and everything went well from my side of the line. Yeah. So the summary is, I really loved the tool. I really love how the community, especially you, Alex, reacted to everything, so that I always feel like I'm in it and I can help, and I get help by help with my help. You know, it's like I don't felt alone in all the whole process. And this is what I call true community management. Yeah, so there's really someone who's dedicated for helping those people who help, who essentially give their free work. Yeah, this is like a gift, if you want so. And I think that's a good thing. And also I also said this to Alex and I discussed it a little bit deeper. One of my main points, not only in AI, but in everything I'm doing, is to enable people. Yeah, I'm a manager, so I try to enable my coworkers. I am an automotive, so I try to enable mobility. And I also try to enable that people can use AI even if they don't have the brain power for mathematical stuff. Like when I started in maybe 2005 with AI, it was like reading a book with vectors, and I even didn't understand what vectors are. It was like, oh God, yeah. And now with this tool and a few steps later, nearly everybody can use it, not only by chatting with LLM, but also by applying the mechanisms to tailor the tools they need. Yeah. And so I liked the approach, and I really wanted to commit and to help in this regards. Yeah. One last slide. I have some things I felt are maybe some possible improvements. The one I already mentioned, and I think it's quite important, is always up-to-date documentation. It's such a dumb thing if the documentation isn't working or it has big gaps where you don't understand what the creator wants. Yeah, for example, I'm not a front-end developer, but currently I'm working on a UI app for building Ludwig configuration pair just visual coding. And I'm using like a reactive framework, and I hate JavaScript. Yeah, it's really ugly. I don't want to do it, but for the sake of the tool, I do it. And there are so many libraries which are just the documentation shit. Yeah, and I don't like it. And it's really a showstopper if you have to go to the code to find out what's going on. Yeah, I don't like it. Working tutorials, of course, yeah, they should work. I think we did something for it, and I hope the rest is also working. I think I didn't do all the tutorial stuff because at one point I found out, okay, it's so easy, I just read the references and the API. At some points in the API, talking about this, some of the arguments and parameters are not very good explained. Like there's a long list in the what is it? In the tokenizer, yeah, a list of 30 or 50 parameter sets, or and yeah, don't know what it is, can't read about it. Okay, some are language related, but probably I have to know what I'm doing on this point, and not all people who are using it probably know what it is. So this is not expressive enough from my point of view. I think a link just to the backend library, which is probably handling it, would help, but it's not there. Then there is no issue in GitHub labeled with easy. So this is a level I would go in as I'm not on a daily business with coding, but I want to help. The easy stuff would be probably good for me, and also the documentation stuff, if so. And also you are using GitHub projects. I'm not sure if this is state of the art for you, or if it's just legacy. You did it somewhere in the past and now it doesn't work. And so, but it's not, it's probably not how projects work. And it's also using the legacy projects in GitHub. From my point of view, yeah, I always want to have the not the detailed issue stuff. I need to know what's going on a global base. Like, what is the thing you want to approach with a set of different things you want to do, like features or like issues. Yeah, and it's always awesome to have like a set of more global explanation on want to go in this direction. Like, for example, we want to have a better documentation, and we have 10 things which could be done, for example. Yeah, but this seems to be a little bit legacy. Maybe that could be updated, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I think that's everything so far I found when I thought about the process. I hope I could help, and I hope what I said is informative in a situation where you want to have just a better management of the whole project. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for your time.
That was tremendous, Martin. I have a couple of questions, reflections about this, but I figured let others chime in first. Can do it later. I'm just going to say that a number of things, other than huge thanks to you for this thorough overview that kind of used your own contributors' experience as a backdrop, is I do appreciate the product manager's approach to your review. It's very clear, it's comprehensive, it's end-to-end, and it has also it shows the weight and authority of somebody who was a developer and is now a recovering product manager, recovering developer, but you're kind of doing it again and together with thinking product. And you were kind enough to remark that we jump and help our users when we can. This, I have to say, just to say some compliments about the team that I am privileged to be part of, is that if you look at Piero and Arnav, who's not here, Jeff and Tim, my colleagues are some of the most technically deep, sophisticated people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And at the same time, everybody knows that the user is number one. So
Yeah.
it's actually the small team that does both, develops fundamentally, it's basically from a scientific paper to code kind of work being
Yeah,
done.
I've seen
It's
that, yeah.
scalable. And when a user or a customer needs anything, I mean, I was up at midnight thinking, oh my God, I'm working late. Then somebody on the East Coast jumps in and it's also helping. So that's the culture, and we love it that way. And so we're really happy to be helpful. In terms of some things that the GitHub issues labeling, that's actually on me. And I'm like, it's a to-do for me that I'm a bit behind on, as probably other things, but that's already been recognized. I appreciate you kind of highlighting it because we know, and so like I have to get to it and have the team review. We need to do better labeling to enable more of contributions with documentation, of course. And documentation is hard because people would do their code development, but then in the documentation, it's like a whole system, a whole different process that you need to review it. You might have to run mdocs. That's another port. Sometimes errors. Plus, in our documentation, we have certain automation that if you change, let's say, one of the public API classes and methods facing modules, there's some Python script that actually creates out of this documentation for you automatically, but you have to check. So like we have to constantly review our approach to documentation. And tutorials, yeah, like we've been focusing on a lot of tutorials with fine tuning, but now with our thrust with computer vision community in Ludwig, we will have to augment that part as well. Actually, I recall Ethan, I thought you were gonna also do a docs contribution.
Yeah, I was, and then so I forked the document thing, and I realized after looking at the documentation page that it had been updated automatically with the schema changes that I had made.
That's
So
the thing.
I was like, oh well, I don't need to do this now because it's already done.
It works great.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
So speaking of that, that's good to know. And that was kind of the script I was referring to. I modified that script to just handle more cases, but we have an offsite coming up next week, as I mentioned. And the week after that, towards the end of June, we will have a Ludwig release, which will have bug fixes, computer vision contributions, things like that. Because there's some, like Martin, you mentioned, in open source now, things move so fast. Hugging Face, Transformers went a few versions up. That broke some things we relied upon in Ludwig that got fixed. So it will all be a part of a release toward the end of June. And yeah, I really appreciate this. And if you don't mind, I'd like to actually, ping you back on Discord sometime to revisit some of these observations, see how we can do it better.
Yes.
And also with your configurator coming up, I'm very excited about that. So can be guinea pigs for you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
So I wanted to maybe echo one thing that Martin had said. So he had, I guess, cited your role, Alex, as kind of the contributors, maybe liaison or whatever it is. So I have to admit, early days, even up to like the initial torch vision stuff, having somebody on, the Predibase side that a contributor can talk to and help navigate how to make the changes was I found very useful. So I'm glad that they're kind of formalizing that role, that you're formalizing that role, because at least from my side as a contributor, even somebody who's been doing it for a while, having your role would make life a whole lot easier.
Yes, yes, I'm very glad that Predibase made that decision because it actually enables me to formally dedicate cycles to something I just truly love and converse with brilliant contributors such as yourselves. I just wanted to add to that one of the latest things we started doing is publishing materials and papers. Some of those papers we're actually reading ourselves. So this is not just some kind of a social media content. It's actually stuff we care about and things that are happening today. The new multimodal models, the RAG, RAG versus fine tuning, and new architectures. Then there's Mamba, and now there's XLSTM, and so this world is evolving. And I think our attitude is that there are probably a lot of situations where you know something we don't, and we should all talk about it. So we're sharing this stuff. You should feel free the same, and please share it with others. Bring them to Discord, and I do have a couple of things that I'm a bit delinquent on, having to validate Llama 3 and Phi 3, but we'll get there. So really appreciate it, Jim and others. Coming from you, Jim, and Sekad being so early here with Pierre and with Ludwig. I mean, I just love having you come to these things, participate in our chats, and hopefully your daily jobs will allow you to do more, and we'll be there as well. Actually, speaking of which, Jim, how is that daily job? Is it still eating up all of your time? Or day job, I should say.
Yeah, but it is. It pays the mortgage, so to speak. So
Yeah, understood. Well, happy to have you here in any capacity. And that actually is a great segue. I mentioned that we have a formal program for for encouraging contributions and use case too, by the way, use cases as well. For example, Martin, if you're developing something for your brother-in-law, it's a standard use case from text to images, text to, well, now it's videos, right? All these three videos offering. So if it's something to write about, to do a webinar about, let's consider it.
Yeah,
And
probably will, because it's I think it's a de facto task to, or good practice using things for shipping labels. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that's really something we could write about it, how easy it would go with Ludwig, right?
yes, it's a classic use case, it seems, but with different data, everything is different, therefore interesting. And this is very much like other people who have used Ludwig for their use case, and then were excited enough to share the experience with others via blog posts. So if that's something that starts making sense, we'll be delighted to work with you on that, if needed. And so now that in terms of the things that people can work on, I would like to emphasize this is a very short and incomplete list, and your imagination would probably guide us to even better projects. But for what it's worth, we have these, and I put them in Discord already with some more details, and that is, well, the issues. So I'll clean up the issues so it'll be a little bit easier to see what there makes sense for whom. Python, we're still at 3.10. It would be nice to enable the latest Python, maybe even the walrus operator. I don't know. So then quality of life, we don't have poetry yet in Ludwig, and that's kind of eating at me because the rest of the Python community is taking advantage of much more formal and reliable and easy to use tools. So there's that. And the thread is in Discord. Regarding that, happy to talk to anybody at any time when they have ideas for things to work on, anywhere from contributions to use cases. And I just also want to emphasize, it's not just me, as Jim pointed out, that I'm representative from Predibase into Ludwig community, but we have the advantage of people like Jeff and Tim and others who know so much and always are interested in working with you. So any other thoughts?
Yes. And these thoughts are for Tim and Jeff in particular, and you, Alex. When you're developing this forward-looking architecture, one of the things that's an integral part of our multimodal architecture is this tiny lava factory. So one of the things I'd love for you guys to do is to look at that code and see how that could factor into Ludwig or become part of the Ludwig intro LLM architecture. So we'd be working the problem from both ends.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it'd be a valuable addition for our own understanding. So, yeah, we'll take it back to the group and see if we can all sit down and dig into it.
Yeah,
See,
that's absolutely.
And
I think we've noticed as well. I think a lot of people are interested in working in outside specifically just the text domain. So I think having access to something multimodal through Lava would be fantastic.
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and as I said, it abstracts away like a factory type design pattern and builds infrastructure so you can basically drive through configuration any number of models chained together, and the chaining being text and image in this case. So it would be great to have a smaller discussion thread after you guys have looked through it, tied into the forward-looking architecture that Alex has outlined.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well,
Yeah, sounds great. We have a team member who is he's not here. He was here last time, but he is not here. He's turning in his PhD thesis in computer vision. So we'll make sure that he has seen this, at least this part of the meetings recordings, and we'll get the best thinking we can on the subject. So really appreciate Saikat emphasizing, pointing this out. It'll actually focus us in this regard to address as best as possible. It'll be exciting. All right, well, appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend. Congratulations to Ethan, and thanks to our speakers, Ethan and Saikat and Martin. Welcome, Martin and Carlos. And please feel free to introduce your thoughts, resources, papers you're reading in our community, and tell others, invite them in, and we will be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Bye bye.
Guys,
Bye, Jim. Bye, everybody.
bye.